I think the secret of the longevity has been you've had the highest artistic performances possible. If you just take a look at the first 8 years, the roster is extraordinary, the people that were here. Miles and Monk came in first time in 1963, and Charles Mingus came in 64 and then came back in 1965. And of course, they were extraordinary artists, and each of them was at the peak of his career.
Miles was wonderful. There's only, I would go up to him and say, Miles, give me about an hour. You ain't got an hour to say, man. I can play everything I can play in 40 minutes. That's what the kind of a set he'd give you. He'd give you a 40-minute set. He didn't want to waste a lot of time and energy on film material. The other thing that was different about Miles is that he always wanted to be first on the bill. He always wanted to open. Everyone else, for ego reasons, wants to close. He says, I want them fresh ears.
I remember the very first time that I was made aware that Miles knew who I was. And it scared me to death. I didn't even want to know what he thought about me. I was so afraid and intimidated because Miles can be very, he could be very direct.
Is that they didn't take the time to try and listen to Miles. He just didn't like to talk a lot. Once you got beyond that and took the time to listen to him, it was marvelous. That was Miles.
Melodious sphere moment.
What was he like in Monterey? Did he hang out? Like, was he accessible to the fans, or?
Actually, he was a little timid almost.
Yeah.
They said, well, he's abstract.
Yeah.
No, man, he thought about music. He was a complete artist.
Clark, he also wrote some of the best tunes around.
Oh, you better believe it. He sure
He
did.
was not only a good piano player, but he was a wonderful composer.
He arrived on stage, pretty much like he is in this picture, with the hat and the overcoat on. And then he got warmed up, so he got up, took the overcoat off, hung it over a microphone, and drove the poor guy on the sound system out of his gourd. But other than that, he came out to Monterey, and there'd been all the monk mystique, and all monk is this and monk, and what and what I found out that. From personal experience, this was just one of the nicest men I've ever met in my life.
What a great guy he was. And never be forgotten. The Thelonious Sphere Monk.
First time that Mingus played here, he was they shared the afternoon program, Monk and Mingus. And about 15 minutes before the curtain was supposed to go up, Mingus says, how come I have to open? I'm as big a name as Monk. Well, how come? Well, because he had to work in New York last night and flew out. He hasn't met the band that is going to play with him. He's rehearsing the second half of the show while you're playing the first half. He said, well, I don't know, man. It's, I don't see why and it went on like that. So finally, I just, with practically tears in my eyes, was, saying, but Charles, it's set up this way, and we can't keep those 5,000 people out there waiting. So I'm, asking Charles if he just won't go ahead, and he says, Charles says, well, he says, I very seldom take people's advice on things, but this one time I'm going to do it, and I just opened up. It was just, oh, wow. And he went, and this, of course, is when he got the big standing ovation. It's his great record and one thing and another. It was just one of those marvelously creative moments.
Well, Charles Mingus was here in 1964, and he played a piece called Meditations on Integration, which was just spectacular. It's one of the highlights of all time. And he was invited back in 1965, and he had made a recording of the previous year, what he was going to sell. He produced it himself, and they did not arrive on time, and certain people were blamed. And he was scheduled to do a program of new music that afternoon, Sunday afternoon. And he got up and played for about 20 minutes, And all of a sudden he turned to his group and said, "Play When the Saints Go Marching In," and he just marched them right off the stage, and that was the end of Charles Mingus of Monterey.